First, to set yourself up for developing film, you're going to need to load your film into a tank. We've gone over this in class, but make sure you have all the parts when you go in to the film loading room. And so that this relatively boring looking piece, the center column, looks like Abe Lincoln's hat. That's really, really important. Your film is going to get exposed to light during the processing if you don't remember that, or if you put it in wrong. The other parts I think are pretty easy to remember because there's a lid, right, and another lid. Then from the rack down to the side, you're going to grab 2 reels. Whether you're just doing 1 roll or 2, you're going to grab 2 reels because that is what's going to keep your film from sort of moving up during processing. So if you're just doing 1, you're only going to use enough chemistry to cover the bottom reel. But you're going to load it onto Abe Lincoln's hat with another one on top so that in the process of agitation we don't jar it and make it gradually work its way up where it's not submerged in the chemistry anymore. So once you've got all your parts, you're going to go into the film loading room and you can meet me over there. So let's take a look at the film loading room. Very important, knock first, save a classmate. You are supposed to lock the door when you go in there, and that prevents people from getting all upset when someone opens the door by accident. But, you know, it never hurts. So inside, I've turned the light on in advance. Please turn it off when you're not in there. But you can see we've got a little table set up here, a little bench. So assemble your stuff where you know that it's going to be, because remember you're going to be doing this with the lights totally off. So you need scissors. There will pretty much always be a bottle opener in here. You don't absolutely need the rubber lid for your tank, but as I mentioned earlier, you do need the little top hat, the 2 reels, and the funnel lid, and of course your film. I would in addition take in a roll of the practice film. Why? Because you're going to feel more confident once the lights are out if before you handle your precious film that you just took pictures on, you shut out the lights, grab the practice film, and reel it on. And then, you know, once you've done that, let's simulate, with the lights out, you know, you'll be like, okay, I've got this. I do remember how to do this. Everything's going to be fine. You can just set that off to the side and then go ahead and load your actual film with confidence. But there's a list on the handout as far as what you need to bring in here with you. Remember, the lights have to be out. We do have a lock on the door, so you know once you're set up, you'll shut the lights out, pull the door all the way shut so it locks, and make darn sure that you don't have your phone in here with you where if it goes off and lights up, it's going to expose your film. I would just leave your phone deep down in a bag or something like that if you want to keep it with you for safety or whatever. Make sure it's in a bag, because any little tiny bit of light getting in here will ruin your film. A rule of thumb when you're loading film, anytime you have it out of that little metal cassette or plastic cassette, is if you can see your hand in front of your face, there's enough light to damage your film. Let's take a look at the door. When you're coming out, we've got a special door. It's got issues. You are not going to get locked in here. Do not worry about that. However, like when we lock it, just like any door, that's locked, right? But when you come out, I mean, you can just open this and get out very easily, and you would, unless you consciously turn this and turn the handle, you're going to wind up shutting the door behind you and locking it so that no one else can use the room until some faculty members here with a GA1 key to unlock it. Now, worst case scenario, what if they did do that Now we're really getting kind of extreme. But this is the situation. See those hinges? You could actually pull the door off the hinges if you really needed to. Like you've got work you've got to do over the weekend, someone forgot and didn't lock it right. Any, like one of your keys or something like this. These have been removed many, many, many times. So they're very easy to take off. You take the one off the top, just like what you saw, the one off the bottom, and then this will just lift off, and you can get in. Yay! But hopefully you won't have to do that because everybody will remember the funky unlocking system and they will turn the lock, turn the doorknob when they unlock it. There you go. I'm going to go in the dark now and load my... Here's the film processing area. Just to give you a quick little tour here. On the board over here, safety procedures are listed on this framed thing. And over here are some development times for the commonly used film in this lab. So there's this charming handwritten deal right there. You can see Tri-X, T-Max, HP5 Plus, and Arista. Most often lately we've been using mostly HP5 Plus or Tri-X. And so here you can see these times are made for, are set up for D76, diluted 1:1, assuming 68 degrees. The middle column, it gives you the correct time for the developer. Now this is just the developer, just the D76 1:1. So I am actually using another brand of film, but it has the same amount of time as the film that I checked out to you probably if you're in the beginning class or even intermediate 1. HP5 Plus is one that we commonly stock here as a 400 speed film. So if you're using HP5 Plus or Arista 400, your development time for 68 degrees is going to be 11 minutes, and you can follow right along with me during this video and know that you're not going to miss any steps at all. The other thing we want to do after we've looked that up is to set up our chemicals. So I'm going to set you a little farther back here so you can see what that procedure looks like. We've got all the measuring graduates that you need out here, and they're color-coded. So this goes with the developer, yellow goes with stop bath, blue goes with fixer, oops, wrong way, and finally the permawash goes with the chemical in this little bottle down here. Alright? And then those coordinate to a handy dandy little chart up there, see? Red, yellow, blue, gray. What's gray? Ha! Gray is the color of the sink. So step number 4 is a rinse cycle, and I've even drawn a 4 right next to the faucet. So hopefully these color-coded things will help you make sure that the chemistry winds up back in the right jug if it's one that you're returning, like the stop bath or the fixer, and also helps you keep everything in order. They are, of course, labeled, but, you know. So the tricky one really is just the developer. The other ones, it really doesn't matter amount-wise that much. Developer, we need to use enough fluid to cover whatever roll of film we're doing. And so we have a chart up above on the wall up there. And so the first step, it says D76 developer, 1 35 millimeter roll. You need 6 ounces of D76 plus 6 ounces of water. And that's because we're diluting it 1:1 for a total of 12 ounces, which is going to cover the roll completely. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out. To operate these little tanks, you simply pull up on the tap and decant whatever it is you need in there. And, stop as you go and just check it by making sure the graduated cylinder is nice and level. And get down at eye level and sight to make sure that you're getting exactly the right amount. You do not have to worry about being all that accurate with any of the other chemicals, but the developer is kind of a big deal. The other place, while I'm at it, that you can look up what volume you need is on the bottom of the plastic tanks. It's set in there. And in fact, I'm going to be developing some film that's a little different from your format. It's called 120 film. So I'm actually going to be putting more like 18 ounces into my tank. Okay, now we would like to achieve a temperature that is 68 degrees, as close to 68 degrees as we possibly can get. The water coming out of these faucets varies a lot in its temperature. I mean, even if you've got it set on cold, think about it, we're in South Louisiana. If it's a warm, if it's warm outside, like it's summer, the air quotes cold water in this place comes in at about 80 degrees. So cold water coming out of this tap is not going to cool off your chemicals, right? So what do you do about that? If it's kind of hot out and other people have been running the water, chances are really good you're going to need another source of cold water. You know what you do? You grab any other container. Here we go. You ready? Here's the secret. You see that drinking fountain down there? You get water from the drinking fountain, just a little bit of extra in this jug, because that you will be able to use in combination with the tap water to create the temperature that you need. I happen to be here on a Saturday morning. Nobody else has really run the water yet. So I'm pretty confident that if I just take some water out of the faucet, it's already going to be pretty cool. We'll see in a minute. Let me get my camera set back for you. There we go. All right. So the goal is we got to dilute this chemical, and we've got to either maintain 68 if it's already 68, or we've got to get it to 68 before we dilute it too much. Like in the end, for me, I've got to make it exactly to the 20 ounce mark. For you, if you're doing one roll of film, you're going to dilute, you're just adding 6 ounces for a total of the 12 ounce mark. If you're sharing a tank with someone else or developing 2 rolls of film, 20 ounces is the total. So that's set. You know, don't just like keep trying to get to 68 and keep adding water until you've over diluted it. The thermometer hangs up on a bracket over here, right here. I really don't want to see this thermometer like this. Do you see all the chemicals crusted up on it? It takes about 10 seconds to rinse that off when you're done. That's literally all the person before me had to do to not leave me with a mess. Just saying, don't be like whoever that was. So, but really, protect yourself. Rinse it before you use it. If there's stuff on it, it's probably developer, but who knows what they were taking the temperature of. And you don't want to dip anything into your developer that's not water. You know, you want it to be clean. So I'm just going to put it in there. And you can see this is a Fency thermometer. It is made for darkroom use. So it's actually got a little line right at 68 because so many films are really designed to be developed with a 68-degree working temperature. I don't know if any of that showed in the video, but so in fact it's a little teeny bit cool. It's like 67. So I would like to add water that is a little bit warmer than that, hopefully. And, you know, it can take a little while, honestly, because the water has a ways to travel from whatever's doing the heating. But there we go. You know, so now it's good. And I'm just going to rinse out and use another container to pour from. And add a little bit. And this is going to be your procedure. You're going to add a little bit of water. Take the temperature. Now I'm right at 68. So I could, if I wanted, I suppose, make a mixture of my cooler water from the faucet and the warm water to exactly 68 and then just add this up to the line. That's one way to go. Or if I hadn't quite gotten it to 68 yet, I could just add, you know, a little bit of cool if it needed to be cooler. Take the temperature. If I needed more cool, keep adding cool. Whatever the case, stop when you get to the right volume. Even if the temperature's wrong, you know, do your best to get it right, but stop when you get to the right volume. Okay? So let's do that. All right. And with all of these things, please rinse them when you're done with them. Like, remember, just because that said D76 doesn't mean that's what it was. I was just using extra water from it. So I have, in fact, gotten mine exactly to 68. I rinsed the thermometer, and I hung that back up to dry. Okay. What if you didn't quite get it to 68? We got your back. Let's say it was cooler, say 65 degrees. You would just need to develop the film longer because the chemical process would be happening more slowly. The molecules aren't moving around so fast. So we just compensate. And tests have shown that your film will still be developed just fine if you extend the time to 12.5 minutes if it's cooler by, 65 degrees. Or, moving over to the right here, if it's warmer, if it's 72 degrees, then those molecules are moving faster, right? So the chemical process is accelerated, and we just need to compensate by going for less time, 9.5 minutes. Honestly, 68 is ideal, but choosing one of these, if it's off a little bit, that's not a big deal. You're still going to get good results. If you're really, working with something extreme, we have this chart over here that gives you a pretty wide range of temperature changes, all the way up to 80 degrees, although that is really, really not recommended. I think if you're off this other chart, maybe just, text me or something and I'll help you figure that out. So we've got the developers set up. You're going to love the others. Just get at least enough stop bath to fill your tank. Doesn't need to be exact because you're going to be pouring it right back when you're done with it. And so, let's see. I actually have exactly enough. Fixer is the same thing. In fact, with the fixer, you might find that you get faster results if you do use kind of more than you actually need. Like if you're doing one roll of film, one roll of 35 millimeter film, I would put in double the quantity of fixer. It's just more chemistry to be circulating around, and you might find you have a little faster fix time for that. When you put these things in the sink, put them in an order that makes sense to you. Maybe kind of a front to back kind of deal, something like that. The Permawash, you could even hold off on pouring this in there because remember you've got a water step in between, and maybe not pouring the Permawash yet will help you remember to do the water step and not go straight to the Permawash. But it also is going to get returned to the jug when you're done with it. So you don't have to get all crazy measuring it. These are just little ways that you can speed up your work process. So I've got my chemistry set out. I'm ready to go. To me, since I'm going to be working mainly over here, it makes sense to just sort of grab actually right to left. Please bring a towel so that you can keep your hands from getting chemicals all over the place. There is a step-by-step guide. This is a copy of the handout that's available on Moodle, and so this is always just hanging here to kind of remind you what you're doing. You're also, of course, welcome to put the video on your phone and prop it up here and just follow along. So the next thing to think about is the timer. Let me manually zoom you in to look at the timer. These timers each have these handy little tape tabs made to kind of remind you when to stop for the developer, honestly. And so I just, I'll show you what my system is. You can do whatever you want, but the main thing is when you use these, so there's one hand that clicks, as you could just hear it, and this counts down minutes. This, I think, is fairly obviously counting down seconds. Only turn it in the direction of the word set when you're crossing over 0. So in other words, it's okay to go like this. It is not okay to push it past 0 going to the left. For some reason, they weren't able to design a timer that doesn't break when you do that. And so we'd rather you didn't do that. So rather than have you reach up here with wet or chemically hands, I would like you to set this timer way up here. It's going to be counting down. So my habit is to set it so that it's going to, when I add my first chemical, I'm going to add it when it's right on the 50. And then the math is going to be nice and easy. With 11 minutes, I'm going to develop until this hand is here. I'm going to pour it out, go to stop bath, go for a minute, pour that out, go to the fixer, go for 2 minutes, pour it out, check it, probably go for 2 more minutes, etc. So I'm just counting down, but that way I don't have to keep reaching up there. You know what I mean? If I were to set it for exactly 11 minutes and start, then when I get to the stop bath, I'm sort of torn. My hands are full developing, handling my tank and everything, and yet somehow I need to start the timer again. And that's when this starts to get really corroded and damaged, when nasty hands full of chemicals start reaching up a lot. So for its longevity, I don't want you reaching up with wet hands. And also just for your safety, it's electrical. Look at it. Why you want to touch that with wet hands? You don't. Seriously, it's got a nice little rubber cover over things and it's pretty safe, but there is no reason to touch it with wet hands. I think I've made myself abundantly clear, so we'll start.